Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. It's really great to see so many people in attendance. My name is Vanessa Barnes, and I am the Head of Growth and Partnerships with Restaurant and Catering Australia, and we've been doing some really great work with both Mike and Nick from Edge Impact. And today is going to be a webinar on the bin trim program that has been taking place, and it's all around food waste and how to unlock cost savings. So like I said to the boys, I don't think anyone really wants to hear too much from me today. So what I'm going to do is hand it over to the guys. Can everybody hear me okay on the webinar? I just like to make sure of that before we start.
Yes, we can hear you, yeah.
Thanks, Sammy. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Mike and Nick, and they'll introduce themselves and explain a little bit about the program, and more importantly, get into the juicy stuff of how to be able to save money through the waste programs within the businesses. So thank you again, everybody, for your attendance. It's much appreciated.
Thanks, Vanessa. Yeah, as mentioned, my name is Mike. I'm a consultant at Edge Impact. We are a broad spectrum sustainability consultancy. I sit within the circular economy team. I've been here for 7 years, and a big part of those 7 years have been working on bin trim projects, which is primarily looking at waste and recycling improvements for small businesses. So I'll get straight into it. The contents, the agenda that we'll be going through today is just an overview of the bin trim program, how you can find cost savings through everyday actions, communicating and taking action on waste, so staff engagement and empowerment, and then what lies beyond the bin trim program. So just to do a quick overview of the bin trim program, it is Australia's largest business recycling program. It's engaged with more than 38,000 businesses since its inception in 2014 and has diverted over 260,000 tonnes of waste from landfill, which is a pretty extreme figure. It's pretty hard to wrap your head around how much that actually equates to, but it's a lot, let me tell you, and I've seen it firsthand. So what we've been aiming to do is enhance waste outcomes, look at opportunities for small businesses of how they can reduce waste and increase recycling, build the capacity for businesses to transition to a circular economy. And then the final point is around the bin trim equipment rebates, which is a 50% co-funding opportunity for businesses. The objectives, as I mentioned, are all around minimising waste to landfill, increasing recycling, and looking at waste reduction, so avoiding waste altogether. The program really looks at trying to meet industry where it's at. Like, we have been working with hospitality businesses for as long as I've been at Edge and longer, and we really understand, I suppose, the challenges and barriers that the hospitality businesses are up against. We're not here, and the program is not here to tell you what to do, but it's to try and help you implement it yourself through whatever methods you have available and with the staff that you have available. So we're looking at trying to reduce operational costs through waste management, supporting businesses. There's obviously the rise in customer expectations around sustainable practices in hospitality and how that can be communicated, and then staff retention. Sustainability is definitely one of the measures that some individuals are looking for in businesses. To zoom out on the, can't get rid of that, the performance of the statistics. So we visited over 110 different businesses in New South Wales. We had a decrease in general waste of around 16%, and over 75% now are recycling food waste through the program, which is a massive achievement, considering food waste recycling can sometimes be quite a barrier to change. You know, you're introducing a new method, new operations within a venue. There are a lot of barriers that you potentially need to overcome to do that. So we're very proud of the fact that we've had a 75% increase. Hospitality venues, what we saw across the 3-year program was them obviously introducing organics recycling, encouraging staff recycling, opening the line of communication with your providers, whether that's the waste contract that you have, waste contractor. Sorry, there's just a bit of background noise. If everyone could mute themselves. Show who that is. And also the providers of your produce and products. So trying to minimize excess packaging where possible, and cutting down food and single-use product waste. So a key message that we've been really trying to hone in on is how these waste reduction initiatives can save you money. And we have plenty of case studies to lean on. I think that's such a tangible thing that businesses are interested in. You could have all the environmental aspirations in the world, but if it doesn't stack up financially, particularly in the hospitality space, it can be difficult to try and justify any changes. So we really try and frame that waste is lost monetary value. It is lost value when you dispose of waste, whether that's food waste or other types of single-use products. There's a really good clip that I'll share in the follow-up email after this around the comparison of a single-use packaging item to compared to a reusable crockery or plate or bowl, and the life cycle that a single-use plate, bowl, coffee cup goes on compared to a reusable alternative. So some examples of lost value is single-use, food waste entering landfill. Plate waste is a good one that often is disregarded, taking note of the type of food waste that is coming back from unused, uneaten food on plates or in takeaway containers. Why is it not being eaten? Is there consistent themes around the type of food that's not being eaten? Can you retroactively change your menu to account for that and in turn save on costs? As well as, I suppose, waste is commonly thought of as is an afterthought. It's not something that's front of mind. And with the site assessments, we've been really trying to encourage owners, managers, staff members to keep note of what's going into the bin, why it's going into the bin, and ensuring that when you are putting your bins out for collection that they are full. You're not being charged for half-empty bins that are being collected. It's not super common that waste providers will let you know that they're collecting half full bins or quarter full bins. It's up to you as the owner to make sure that those bins are being placed out fully optimized and full, so you're getting the value for money, because you are paying a premium when it comes to waste. So how do you achieve cost savings through recycling and operations? There are these 3 practical examples that we've looked at for hospitality venues. CDS recycling, if cans and bottles are something that you're serving consistently on site, ensuring that you have a separate collection scheme for those. You can use those 10-cent returns that stack up in the long run. Asking your suppliers to reduce packaging in what they're sending you. This is a common theme. There's a huge push nationally and internationally around reducing unnecessary packaging waste, and suppliers are definitely catching on to that requirement. And it's common for organizations to request of their suppliers to minimize the amount of packaging that they're sending. So if you do note particular suppliers that are sending large amounts of packaging that is really unnecessary, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask them to change that or what they can do instead. And then avoiding single-use products as well. So the upfront investment of reusable crockery like cups, plates, etc., is definitely a financial saving in the long run. I suppose, ease of clearing a table that's just full of single use and throwing it into the landfill bin seems like an efficient way of doing things. But in the long run, you are definitely paying a premium both in landfill costs, which are continually rising year on year, but also in the single-use products and packaging as well, which through government changes, probably likely later this year, if not the year after, will continually go up in cost because the government is trying to incentivize organizations not using or purchasing single use. So the other way to reduce costs is with food waste recycling. So a key thing to note is that landfill costs are charged by collection, but also by weight. And that's because there's a landfill tax or a levy on each ton that is disposed in landfill. So you're charged at a premium, and this levy has increased by 200% since 2010 and continually goes up year on year, whether you're notified or not. It's just a mechanism of the market that's driven by the government. The reason that they do this is to try and incentivize organizations to recycle as much as possible, as well as the fact that we're fast running out of landfill. Sydney, for example, is forecast as early as 2028 to run out of landfill, and other states and cities earlier than that. For example, Coffs Harbour has been sending their landfill up to Queensland for, I think, 2 years now because they ran out of landfill in the local area. So there's a clear reason from a market point of view to increase the landfill tax and try and discourage businesses from disposing everything into the landfill. And food waste is particularly important when it comes to this because it is by far the heaviest material that's ending up in your landfill. If it's coffee grinds, if it's vegetables, if it's meat waste, whatever it is, this material is by far the heaviest when you compare it to things like cardboard, plastics, etc. And as I mentioned, you're charged at a weight base as well as a per collection base. So by introducing a food waste service, you can remove all of that heavy organic material that's a lot of the time largely a sort of water liquid-based material to reduce the frequency of your general waste collections, change the bins to smaller sizes, and start to see savings. We've seen businesses who've implemented organics well save up to 30 and sometimes more, 30% on their annual outgoings just by properly separating waste and reducing their general waste. So the other thing to note is that there is in New South Wales mandates that are coming out around the recycling of food waste. So could everyone just mute themselves? Thanks. And so it's a staged rollout over 3 years. If you don't already in New South Wales, in your local council area, in your household, have access to a food waste recycling bin, you soon will. But the other focus of the mandate is businesses. Year 1, which kicks off in 1st of July, is targeting large businesses like supermarkets, big hospitality venues, shopping centres, etc., where they are mandated by law to have a food waste recycling service. And then over the following 3 years, it'll basically be rolled out to everyone will be required who's a food serving business to have a food waste recycling service in New South Wales. So we've developed some fact sheets around this, as well as how you can successfully implement a food waste recycling service and train your staff around what best practice separation and why that they should be doing it. And you can find those fact sheets on the R&CA online member portal. which are free to download. An example of a case study is Jujemu and Shimbashi in Neutral Bay. They implemented a number of initiatives, included new recycling streams, new bins that color-coded. They changed the location of their bins to be placed specifically in high waste generating areas. So you can imagine where the plate waste section is, where the prep location is for the preparation in the kitchen. Bins were placed strategically to capture the waste, in particular food waste, as much as possible. They increased their recycling by 54%, which was significant. So around 68 cubes of waste is now diverted from the landfill annually. They were able to reduce their landfill collections and therefore their costs. Another one is the Garçon Cafe in Lane Cove. They requested that polystyrene be removed from their supply chain. So to hone back in the point around general waste, you're charged by weight, but also by collection. Polystyrene is incredibly light, so is soft plastic, but it's very voluminous. It takes up a load of room in your bins that doesn't actually weigh a lot. So by removing that and swapping that particular problematic material that could not be recycled with something that could, they drastically reduced the amount of landfill that was being collected. They looked at their menu sizes. So as I mentioned before, around plate wastage. So just taking a week or two to note down the consistent plates that were coming back and the type of food that was very commonly uneaten. And they made menu changes to account for that. They set up food waste recycling bins throughout with green compostable liners, so that it was really clear for staff. And they increased their recycling by 29%, and 69 cubes of waste is now diverted annually, so quite a significant amount. So how do you communicate this and establish this in your venue? Identifying what products enter your venue is a really good outcome to begin with, and it's a really simple process by simply just looking in the bins at the end of the day or at the end of the week and identifying what's in there. If you note that more than 50% of your general waste consists of polystyrene or soft plastics, or there's a significant amount of food waste and it's consistently the same type of food waste, it's an automatic reason for you to investigate that further and try to mitigate that as much as possible. Even if you don't introduce a food waste recycling service, looking at those options are a great way to try and reduce your general waste cost, which, as I said from the outset, it's often a cost that's unseen and that you just accept when there is definitely huge opportunities for you to intervene to try and change that. So waste contracts definitely encourage you to lean on your waste providers as much as possible. Get on the phone to them, ask them the services that they provide, ask them for the costs. If they don't offer that particular service, call someone else. There'll be plenty of people who will look to try and take your recycling and take your business. So encourage that open line of communication with your waste providers. Again, that leads into knowing what can actually go in each stream. You may be being charged, if you have recycling streams, contamination costs that you're not aware of. So be very aware around what can and can't go in each of the recycling bins and communicate that back to the staff. I've mentioned this a number of times, but ensuring the recycling bins are placed in hotspot generation areas. So if you have a general waste bin, make sure there's a recycling bin next to it. If you don't have room for more than one bin in a particular area, take note of what the most commonly disposed material is that's going in that bin and prioritize that particular recycling or waste stream. And again, review the landfill volume. As I mentioned it's in the waste contractor's interest to continually collect as many bins from you as possible. Make sure that the bins that they are collecting are full. If they're not, look to open the line of communication to reduce the number of bins that are being collected, the collection frequency, or change the size of your landfill bin. How do you communicate this to your customers? There's a number of different ways, but obviously sustainability is front of mind, and we saw that in the R&CA 2025 report. But a lot of customers are choosing products and venues and brands based on their impact on the environment. You can communicate this in a number of ways, particularly around something that's if you're a cafe or a restaurant, around what you're doing with your food waste, where it's being sent, how it's being processed. Is it being turned into compost? Is it being turned into fertilizer? Is it help powering a grid? There's a number of different ways that you can communicate this. So, looking ahead.
Do you want me to run this section, Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
Beautiful. Yeah, so looking ahead, I guess, and what your businesses can start to think about, there are three main topics that we've run through today, and that's cost savings, compliance, and further opportunities to understand what waste could be reduced, what materials could be recycled, and a lot of those tools and other information can be found on different websites. If you go to the next slide, please, Mike. So just to reiterate, the first step, especially for businesses in New South Wales, is being FOGO compliance ready. So that's avoiding fines, but it's also about reducing impact on the environment and securing cheaper waste collection rates. As Mike's already mentioned, one of the ways that we can reduce our costs on the bottom line is to secure food waste collections and reduce the general waste collection frequency, the size of the bin, or how many bins you have. And food waste is a great opportunity to do so, and also avoid those excess weight charges that we often see for businesses, especially cafes or venues where a lot of food waste is produced as well. And the last thing as well is just communicating that value to your customers. Because a lot of different customers are now starting to recycle food waste at home and understanding what that means and what it can do for the environment, it's a really great way for you to be able to communicate that to your customers at the start when they enter your restaurant or other forms of signage. Next slide, please, Mike. The next part, yeah, so continuing on to avoiding increasing landfill costs. Like Mike said, the main thing to really focus on is what bulky materials are ending up in your landfill. So we've talked about polystyrene, soft plastics, pallet wrap, but those are kind of the key materials that we're really seeing in landfills that are affecting the space in your bins and incurring those extra costs. When a lot of restaurants or cafes have talked to their suppliers, they've seen reductions in waste, and that might mean less wrap. Your products that have been distributed to you being wrapped in one piece of film instead of three, swapping from plastic wrapping to cardboard, or avoiding polystyrene altogether. The other opportunity is just focusing on reusable products. It's a really easy way to, and it could be just encouraging customers with coffee cups, but it could also be encouraging customers to dine in or ask if they want dine in or takeaway when they come to order. The more you can get customers to use reusable products, as Mike said, it avoids your procurement costs, especially when you're consistently having to purchase more napkins, more takeaway coffee cups, and those costs continue to increase as well. And lastly, the online tools. So as Mike mentioned, we've developed some fact sheets on waste management that can be found on the R&CA website. We strongly encourage you to read through those and understand what that means, and to conduct those 5 key steps that Mike discussed earlier on, surrounding understanding what's in your waste bins, what could be recycled, what could be reused, and setting up the systems that work. The 2 case studies, Yugamo and Shimbashi and Garçon Cafe, are great examples of where those sites have seen success both in recycling rates and landfill fees that have been reduced. $100 saved per week on landfill is over $5,000 per year, which is a significant amount for your business. On top of that as well, though, we do definitely recommend going to the New South Wales EPA website to understand a little bit more about FOGO compliance, accepted recycling streams in your area, and waste contracts. And Planet Arc, and we'll distribute this in a follow-up email, but Planet Arc has a great directory of different recycling companies and different LGAs. It's a great tool to use to understand whether soft plastics could be recycled in your area, whether there's opportunities for bulk materials that aren't typically able to be recycled to be collected. So we strongly recommend using that website as well. But also just calling your waste contract providers. We've had great examples where we've worked with different industries where some didn't realize soft plastics recycling was an opportunity for things like pallet wrap and general deliveries. And now those businesses are recycling soft plastics, and all it was just picking up the phone and calling their waste service providers and one or two others. Next slide. Thanks, Mike. And yeah, just to recap on the bin trim program. So as we mentioned at the start, the bin trim program is really it's really aimed at providing tailored support to different venues to understand waste management opportunities, how they can meet FOGO mandate compliances, opportunity to communicate sustainability to customers, and unlocking cost savings, as well as other initiatives. But it's also about sharing learnings, and this is what the webinar today has been about. It's about you understanding what is possible and what steps you could take in your business to understand how you could reduce waste and increase recycling. And the biggest thing we would recommend is just to take it one step at a time. Focus on one material, start with the easy steps, then think about how you can communicate that to customers, and then go on to the next step. There's a lot of different avenues you can take, and no one business is the same. And that's why these learnings shared today can hopefully encourage you to take the first step as well. Thanks, Mike. Next slide. So yeah, that's a recap on the bin trim program and I guess the end of the webinar today. But we'd love to open the floor to questions from R&CA members. It might be about the FOGO compliance. It might be a little bit more about bulky materials, recycling, cost savings, and whatnot. But if you have a question, I guess pop it into the chat, or please raise your hand if you're comfortable to speak up. But thank you.
Looks like you've done a really good job, guys.
Everything's clear, hopefully.
So with the presentation, and thank you so much for presenting and going through the findings and the case studies and all the information that you've just gone through. If there were 3 takeaways that you'd like to share with the guests on the webinar, what would they be?
Well, I really like Nick's point around taking things one step at a time. It can be really overwhelming if you're hearing all this for the first time and you've only got general waste and cardboard available to you, or you're hamstrung by your current waste contract. Really just, taking your time in implementing this, particularly as hospitality is such a busy industry with the time required to run a small business. It can be easy to put these things to the side. And that's why we wanted to develop the fact sheet, so that you can constantly go back and refer to initiatives that you can take when you have the time to take them. We're not suggesting by any means that this could all be done and implemented overnight. We are suggesting that you implement small things one step at a time. And if that means the first thing that you do is just pick up the phone to your waste contractor to see what they can offer, or if they have any advice for you, that could just definitely be the first step. So the other 2 would be, the second one would be around food waste recycling. I think it is often seen as quite a significant burden, but it shouldn't be. It will eventually become as normal as putting the cardboard in the cardboard bin. It's been working in a number of different countries for a very long time now, and yeah, before you know it, it'll just be as normal and everyday practice as putting cardboard in the blue bin. So definitely encourage, even if you're, don't fit into the first 2 years of the mandates, that you look to try and introduce organics recycling purely from that economic point of view of saving costs and reducing your general waste collection costs. And the third one would be similar to what Nick suggested around procurement. So again, it's another thing that can be put to the wayside just because of how busy and how easily it is for the day to get away from you. But really picking up the phone and having the conversation with your suppliers around what they can do to try and minimize the amount of waste that you're getting from them in deliveries, etc. So yeah, those would probably be the three that I'd think of. But I just noticed another question come through from Chris around how does this impact aged care facilities? Do the facilities need large green bins, and are the green bags larger to suit high volume catering? Yes, Chris. So aged care are definitely a target for the first year, which is July 1. So depending on the size of the aged care facility and the amount of general waste that you're producing, or the capacity that you have for it in a single week, will determine whether you fit within year 1 or year 2 if you are in New South Wales. And the facilities, it depends. They don't provide too large of a bin for food waste because of how heavy it is. If you, even in your so at home, you'd have either a 240 litre bin for probably your cardboard or your recycling, and then maybe a smaller 120 litre wheelie bin for your general waste. If you fill a 120 litre general waste bin, 120 litre bin full of organics, it is incredibly heavy. So they don't offer anything larger than that, but they will provide you with a number of those bins that could be collected quite frequently. And we would probably encourage with food waste that it is collected relatively frequently, just so that it mitigates against, odors and other things that can happen when you store food waste for too long. So there are green bags, the compostable bin liners to suit those bins. They're to suit a range of different bin sizes, from kitchen countertop bins to big wheelie bins. And the only thing that you need to ensure is that they're to the Australian standard, which will be easy to find on most of the bin liner providers' website. So I definitely encourage you, Chris, to reach out to us, because we are running a separate program for aged care around food waste mandate readiness in New South Wales, and potentially you might fit into that cohort. So I'll put my contact details in the chat.
Would that be the same for anybody that is actually on the webinar that is looking at implementing a food waste program into their business and really not knowing where to start? Because it can be a little bit overwhelming at the very beginning to know where to start. So I'm just wondering if anyone could reach out to you and get some guidance and support.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'd obviously try and lean on the resources that we've developed as much as possible, but we have around exactly a month left of the program. So if there is anything that we can help with over just email or a brief phone call, we'd be more than happy to do so. But I would definitely encourage, if you are unsure, to take a look at some of the links that we've provided in this deck, which we'll be sharing after, and really contacting your waste provider to understand, one, if they provide an organic service, but two, if they think, based on your collection, so your waste invoices, if you fit within year 1.
And just if anyone is wondering where it is that they can get this information, it's actually on the R&CA website. So in the member portal, we've actually got all of the resources throughout the bin trim program as well that you're able to access. So yeah, just log in there. And if you want them and you're not actually a member, just send me an email and we can work something out there. Henry.
And Rudy was just before.
Oh, sorry.
Which I'll respond to. So Rudy said, I work at a seafood restaurant, 70% of our revenues from takeaway. We're going through a lot of packaging and disposables. Is there anything to help decrease this packaging usage? It's a difficult one because oftentimes it is out of your hands, because it is sort of the culture that we live in these days around single use and takeaway. But you could encourage a number of different ways to intervene against that by asking, particularly, and it pains me as someone who works in this space when you do see someone sitting in a restaurant or a cafe eating or drinking out of a takeaway container. And so having that initial conversation, training your staff to ask customers, are you eating in or are you eating out? Oftentimes it can just become standard practice to just automatically assume takeaway instead of offering that they could sit inside. That's sort of a behavioral intervention tactic that you can think of. Other than that, there are ways, like from a monetary point of view, that we've seen, particularly with cafes, where they've introduced a discount for reusables. So if you are using single use, there's a small surcharge to cover the cost for yourself as a business, because you are paying additional to purchase those single use items on a regular basis. That's a cost to your business, and to pass that on to the customer and offer a discount for reuse is another way. And messaging as well. You could look to try and encourage through messaging. But it is a difficult one because oftentimes it can be out of your hands with the way that consumers consume when it comes to food and beverages. Henry, hey team, thanks for sharing. There are clear cost-saving opportunities when reducing food waste, but aside from costings, what's your take on being able to increase company and brand value, staff and client retention? I mean, as we mentioned, and you can see in the R&CA, the report annual report that's released each year, and what customers are interested in, but also what the members are interested in. And sustainability is always, I think for the last few years, Vanessa, has been up the top of those long list of topics. So there's
especially the last one.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a clear interest across the industry around what businesses can do when it comes to sustainability, and that's echoed, in my opinion, across consumers as well. There's a big interest in trying to reduce impact. Similarly, if the staff is also interested in working for a particular business that is doing all the right things when it comes to mitigating against the impacts of operation and trying to recycle as much as possible, if that's part of your sort of values as an organization, you can definitely encourage staff to stay longer, or for customers to continually come back. It's hard for me to speak on it because I'm coming at it from a very biased standpoint, but I would always look to try and preface and put my money towards businesses that are trying to do the right thing. And yeah, as I mentioned, a little bit of a biased point of view, but I can echo that. Nick, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it was halfway through the presentation when we talked about communicating sustainability to customers and adding value. The initiatives any initiative that any business takes, whether it's hospitality or it's all the way up to a large logistics company or a large fashion retailer, the key value that customers always get is when you communicate it really simply. Often, the complexity of what sustainability or waste and what that industry looks like and what could be achieved is complicated in what you're doing, you know, whether it's introducing commingled recycling or doing return and you know, but if you can communicate in a way that's really simple, effective, and front of line, that's often the way that I think a lot of customers can understand. There's a great report that I often like to reference by a company called South Pole, and they interviewed about 5,000 to 10,000 Australians, and about 82% understood what sustainability meant. A lot of them understood responsible sourcing practices. I think it was about 62%. So a lot of customers do understand. I think the main thing that I would reiterate is just taking it in a really simple approach when you communicate it and focusing on 2 or 3 main things that customers really understand. From a hospitality perspective, the main things that I would reiterate you to get across to your customers is food waste recycling, reducing packaging, or responsible sourcing. You know, R&CA approved chickens as an example, and talking to that as a main point.
Thanks, Nick. I hope that helps, Henry. But if you do have any other questions,
it's definitely becoming a lot more prevalent where the statement claims are made on menus and different businesses in terms of the practices that they are following, and it's really inspiring to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bias here, but I love to see it.
No, I like to see it as well, and it just shows a level of care factor for your business, your customers, your community, the planet. Really, it's starting to become more the norm than it isn't.
Agreed.
But okay, well, all I can say is thank you so much to Nick and Mike from Edge Impact for the presentation today, and also for being such great partners in this bin trim program. It's been really wonderful to work with you both, and I've learnt so much along the way, and it's definitely given me a different focus when it comes to sustainability and putting some practices in place as well. So yes, the video, we will edit it, but you'll be able to access the video recording actually through this Teams link. If you have a look at the top, it'll have the transcribe and it'll have the video as well, but we also will be putting it onto the R&CA website so that you can go back and have a look at it and look for any points of interest that you had today that you want to revisit. But thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining us. It's wonderful to see so many of you online today, and I know that you're all busy and you've got so much going on in your business, but it's truly wonderful to see you all here, and thank you so much for connecting with us and hearing the presentation from the guys today.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Vanessa.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Baronia Kitchen, I can reach out to you separately and let you know about the parameters and the waste volumes in regards to what's the compliance for 1 July.
Thanks,
Vanessa. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.